heard your house may have been the place to be this week to watch some of these games. What was that like hosting and having guys check out who you might be playing?
It's great. It's always great to be around the guys, whether we're in the gym or, just kicking and watching the games. Some of those games ended up being the Pels, who we're playing right now. So it was good to get our eyes on them early and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, what was your reaction to watching them, especially just given the 3 really hard-fought games that you had with them this year and the way that they've been playing?
I was extremely impressed with the way that they played in the play-in. They played with grit, and you could tell they really wanted it. And we expect that coming out from them in this series too. So we just got to be prepared for that.
Chet, we know you love to hoop. You're a basketball junkie, but what has this week been like without a game, getting a chance to rest after those 82?
It's extremely refreshing. I wasn't just sitting around. I was still in here, doing what I love to do. But it definitely gives you a chance to kind of let your body catch up to itself, after having a nonstop schedule for the whole year. So, it's good. But, not only myself, we're all ready to get going again.
I imagine because you think the game, because you guys have been game planning now, at least since yesterday, I imagine, like, the Pelicans are expected to miss Zion for some time. Like, how does that change what they do?
As we all know, there's only one basketball, and Zion's a heck of a player, and he commands that basketball a lot. And with him out, basketball is going to be in other guys' hands for more possessions, for more shots. So we just have to understand that guys are going to come out aggressive, and not be surprised by anybody coming out there to make plays.
How important is that 0-0 mentality going to be for you guys in the playoffs?
It's extremely important. Playoffs are. It's a time of huge swings, and you can't let the swing of things kind of, allow your emotions to run wild in one direction or the other, good or bad. If you win one game, series isn't over. If you lose one game, series isn't over. So it doesn't matter what fashion you lose or win in, buzzer beater, blowout, doesn't matter. You got to get ready for the next game because, no team's just going to kind of roll over and give you anything.
How anxious are you to play in your first playoff game?
That's a good word. I'd say I'm very anxious. I'm ready to play, ready to get it on, and I'm excited for it. I wouldn't say nervous, but I'm anxious for sure.
Obviously, you guys as the number 1 seed, the expectations are high with that seeding. How do you sort of not get too far ahead of yourself? I mean, you guys have never, as a group, been in a playoff series. How do you sort of not get so far ahead of these?
Yeah, we've had expectations around us the whole time. Whether they were super high or super low, we've either, we never try to pay attention to those and kind of, let that determine what success is to us. We like to determine our own success and come in here and just be the best versions of ourselves. And, whether that's the expectations that other people have for us or not, that's what we're going to do.
You sort of mentioned it yourself, but Mark was just talking about the significance of mastering those emotional gaps in between games. Have you had an experience that you could maybe connect that level of understanding to, just in terms of, having to understand the emotional gaps, stuff like that?
Yeah, every single game. You have a great game, you're all high on your horse, and then, you can take your foot off the gas and then put up a dud the next game, or you can have a terrible game and you can let it fuel you to have a good game next, or you can kind of let it spiral into having another bad game. So, there's tons of ups and downs like you guys are talking about. You really have to put your emotions to the side and just kind of deal with everything for what it is and, make the most of it.
How much of a challenge is Valanciunas, and what specifically does that matchup require from you?
Yeah, a really good player, super physical down low, big body, skilled in the post with the ball in his hands. And, he's going to create different looks out there for them. When they have him out there and then when they have Nance out there, it's a different look. So we have to be prepared for both and, ready to execute against both looks.
On the other end of the floor, throughout the season, you guys have kind of just let the defense, let the game tell you what to do. In this season series, the ball has really found you quite a lot to be really productive, really efficient. Is there anything that you guys have been able to get to against this New Orleans team that's allowed you to really thrive against them?
I'd say just playing free and like you said, reading the game. Nobody's going out there, kind of predetermined on what they have to do. Each game's been different. They've made adjustments. We've made adjustments. And, we're just trying to read the game and make the right play and be aggressive within that. And I feel like that's going to continue.
Cliff asked about Valanciunas, and you mentioned his physicality. Physicality in the playoffs tends to go up. What's your expectation of what that's going to look like for you, for this team, and just sort of how you respond to that?
I don't think it'll be any different than the last few matchups I've had with Valanciunas. He's an extremely physical player. It's not like he turns that off in the regular season. So I'm expecting him to be extremely physical throughout the series, and we'll be prepared for that.
Overall, could you talk about the relationship between this team and the community, how important each is to one another?
Man, it's extremely important. Obviously now we're in the playoffs, and the city and the community is rallying around us even more. In the fan aspect, putting watch parties together at different venues throughout the city and everything. You're seeing us on the sides of the hotels and stuff, which is amazing. But even before the playoffs and all of this stuff, we've made it a huge part of the organization, from the top down, players to the front office people, the business side of everything, to give back to the community, because without the community, the team wouldn't even be able to be here. So it's extremely important to give back to them and kind of mirror the admiration that they have for us.
The team is bringing back those playoff shirts you were kind of calling for. Did you have anything to do with that?
No, I didn't. They didn't bring it back because of me. I think they brought it back because we're in the playoffs. So if they didn't, I probably would have had a word for them. But they did it without me even having to ask, which is great. So
When you close your eyes and envision what tomorrow looks like, what do you see?
what color shirts it is tomorrow?
White?
White, sea of white, man. Lots of people standing up cheering, deafening sound from everybody cheering, and a whole lot of excitement.
Chet, last thing. Mark was just talking about the other day how, from the coach's perception at least, like when the public views adjustments, like they just see the ones that don't work, and they say, well, okay, those were not good adjustments. Like from a player's point of view, like how do you view adjustments? Like from what lens? And I guess, how do you view them? I guess.
Obviously, if something's not working, you can't just continue to have it not working, but you can't also overcompensate to the point where something else isn't working. So you got to find a perfect middle ground, which happens through trial and error, and figure out something that works. And when you figure out something that works, they're going to make an adjustment to try and counter what works. So it's just a continuous game of chess, basically. And, definitely credit. There's a lot of people out there who point out the adjustments that do work. But I will say coaches definitely get dragged for the ones that don't work more than they get credited for the ones that do work, if that makes sense.
With that, is there like such a thing as over preparing, like having too steep a hand to the point where maybe your entire hand is going by game 2 or 3 or something like that?
No, because once you throw all your cards out there, the other team's going to throw their cards out there trying to adjust to you too, and then you're going to have to find new cards. So it's just a constant battle of like I said, a game of chess. The moves are going to keep going until somebody wins, basically.
Hey, Chet, how does the growth and the success of this team kind of represent the changing of the guard in the NBA?
Explain that a little bit for me.
Basically, the Warriors just got knocked out the other day. You guys are the 1 seed, young team. You guys are on the rise. Talk about the change in the guard in the NBA as it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Like from one generation to the next, or like in terms of skill sets?
One generation to the next.
Well, I don't think those guys retired. So that's like a tough question to answer. I'd definitely just say, credit to them and all the success that they've had, and credit to us, for being hungry for success in the future and in the now. There's no knocking anybody or giving too much credit to anybody on that one. I'll just say that.
Chet, whenever you were growing up, what were some of your favorite NBA playoff moments?
There's a lot, man. I watched all. Yeah. My first year, everybody knows, was Dirk Braun in the finals. I will say one thing. I'm extremely hurt that I was too young for all Kobe years in the playoffs. But watching the OKC series, the Warriors series, those Cleveland years with Braun, the young Celtics teams, how they kind of were a brand new version every year. All those series were exciting. All the big moments, obviously, like the big shots, all those were exciting. I look forward to creating some moments of our own.
Thank you, Chet.
Thanks, Chet.
Be watching some of these games, getting a good look at New Orleans, who now you're going to play on tomorrow.
It's great just getting off our feet, coming in every day, just not knowing who we're going to play, but, still putting in the work, getting, good reps in.
You guys have had some tough battles with them throughout the season. They seem long, rangy. What are some keys in this series coming up in your mind?
I feel like it's about how we play, putting together a whole 48-minute game and staying sharp on what we've been doing all year.
Cason, obviously as a rookie, it's your first time going into the playoffs, but what are you seeing just around town that kind of hints at the excitement that the city has towards the playoffs?
I haven't really been around town, but I've been seeing we got pictures on trains and stuff like that on the arena. But I've just been, locked in the gym and, watching the games at home.
Cason, you guys have a decent sample size against them by now. I just wonder, what are the challenges of defending their guard core specifically and their wings in general?
We're going to have to bring it with all five, no matter who's on the court. For both teams, we're going to have to, play very physical and, keep our man in front, contest every shot as best we can.
Even though you guys had to wait, how important was it for a guy, especially like you, that played 82 games to just kind of get a week off to kind of refresh?
It was great, not worried about having to play a game or travel the next day. It's pretty fun to sleep in my own bed.
How important is that 0-0 mindset going to be for you guys in the playoffs?
I feel like it's going to be very important. I feel like we've been doing good with that all year, and we're going to just keep doubling down on everything that we've been doing.
They just mentioned, you playing 82 games. I think we talked about that with Chet, mostly because he sat out all of last year. But for you, coming into the year, was that a goal of yours? Where did you see that in terms of what you wanted to accomplish this year?
I didn't really know. I was able to play 82. I was healthy. I was available for all those games because I've been putting in the work and doing the recovery. So I just give it to that. That's why I played all 82.
Did you ever once think about maybe taking a game off, resting a game or something like that?
No point of resting if you're able to play, in my opinion. So I was healthy enough to be able to go out there.
Mark talks a lot with us, so I assume he talks a lot with you guys about stacking days. That I've always sort of thought about it. That's a developmental mindset. Stack the practices, stack the games. But he was talking the other day about how he sees that translating to the playoffs. How do you feel like that philosophy of stacking days will pay off for you guys now that you're in the playoffs?
Like you said, we've been doing that, pretty much all year. And the focus right now in the playoffs is doubling down on everything that we've done to get here. So just stacking the good days, try to have, we're going to have some bad days, but as few as possible.
How has that philosophy, you as a young guy, how has that helped you to feel more comfortable in the league?
I feel like it boosts your confidence a little bit when you're constantly doing the right thing and you're constantly doing good. So as long as you keep stacking those good days, it just brings more confidence.
Everybody talks about you guys being young, and a lot of times it's mentioned as a disadvantage. But are there advantages to it in terms of this being a young team?
I feel like it helps with our chemistry. Everybody being able to be themselves, be goofy, be free, and we all feed off each other's energy.
Talk about getting that number one seed and how important it was for the team, and what kind of momentum might that give you going into the playoffs?
It was great for us, having the home court advantage, of course, but we were just playing the best basketball we could, and we ended up with the number one seed. So
Cason, as a perimeter defender, you get a lot of like one-on-one assignments. When you're watching film, preparing for a guy, are you watching more of the offensive player that he's doing, or the defensive player and how he's sort of guarding that guy?
I'm watching clips on the person that I'm guarding, um, just seeing what they're most comfortable doing, and just seeing how I could guard it to the best of my ability.
Jason, I think when you had your draft press conference, you mentioned that you grew up a Thunder fan, even though you were in Dallas. You watched the Russ and KD teams, and you even said you played for a youth team named the Thunder down there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you just rewind a little bit in your memory what you remember of that team and just sort of what stuck with you as a kid?
I remember when I used to play video games, playing 2K, I always picked Oklahoma, so that was probably one of the most memorable things that stuck with me.
What was it about those teams? I mean, picking them in 2K, watching them on TV, like what was it for you that drew you to them?
Westbrook, I wanted to be a downhill guard, so he was one of the best at that at the time. KD, one of the best scorers, so just playing with him on the game, and they had other great role players as well.
Do you think now about the fact that you're now a guy that kids coming up who were you 10 years ago or whatever are now watching you and maybe thinking, oh, I might want to be him when I grow up? Like, have you thought about that at all?
For sure, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this and putting so much hard work into being the best version of me, so other kids can have somebody to look up to.
With the playoffs, there's usually a higher level of physicality. As a defender, you've never really shied away from that. Are you excited for that added level of just like physicality?
Sure. I mean, I'm gonna go out there and beat me no matter how the refs are calling the game. But yeah, I guess I'll be physical.
Anybody else?
Thanks,
Thanks, Cason. Mark, you guys have had some great battles with New Orleans so far this season. What have you thought of the season series and then getting the chance to play them here coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we're familiar with each other because of games this season, playing last year. They've strung together a really good year again. Team we have a lot of respect for, expecting a huge challenge in this series.
You guys have all year kind of just let the defense dictate where the ball goes. In the season series, the ball's ended up in Chet's hands and positions to be really efficient and productive. What do you think has been the key to kind of unlocking that part of the offense against this team?
I mean, we'll see how they guard us. It's unpredictable to a degree. If Valanciunas is out there, they're guarding a certain way, whether he's on Chet or not. When Nance is out there, they're more switchable. They move the matchups around. So, we have an idea of some of the things they could go to, and we'll be ready for, whatever they throw at us.
Herb Jones has been really good defensively, just in general, but he's a tough guy to throw at Shea. What's the challenge there for Shea when Herb's on him?
I think what makes their team good is just how help-oriented they are. They're going to push in a crowd. They have length at every position. He's obviously a great individual defender, but he plays inside of their system, similarly to how we use Lou. Lou's a great individual defender, but he plays inside of our system. And so Herb's a great individual defender, but they're also a really good defensive team.
How do they change what they do, both sides of the court, with no Zion?
It changes them significantly. He's just such a unique player. There's a really good version of them without him, and there's a really good version of them with him. I think they've become a little bit more space-oriented, pick-and-roll oriented on offense. Defensively, they're more like-sized, and they do a lot more switching when he's not in the mix, even when he's not in the game, when he is in the mix. So obviously a great point-of-attack player that they're missing, but they've got other really good options for that they'll just double down on.
Mark, I don't want to be presumptive, but you talked all year about using this 82-game sample to try things that would maybe help you in the playoffs. But I imagine maybe there's some cards that we haven't seen. If so, is there a risk to doing so with not having tried it out in the regular season?
There's not many cards that people haven't seen. There's just, we've tried to throw a lot of cards out there, and, deciding which ones we're going to pull at a given moment is hopefully the case. But, there's maybe a couple things that we can go to, but, we're more focused on being the best version of ourselves and playing to our strengths and our identity. So, we need to continue to double down on that stuff. If we do anything outside of that, it would just be a layer or a very slight adjustment.
And you talked recently just about having to nail down the emotional gaps in between games. I just wonder what's it like trying to get this young group to kind of grasp that concept, to really understand it.
Well, we've done a great job of it all year, and so to a degree, it's just continuing to be who we are on the court and in between games, and then just having an understanding of how these things unfold. At the end of tomorrow night, somebody's going to be up 1-0 and somebody's going to be down 1-0, and the series will be far from over, regardless of who's in which position. And we, got to play the game as best we can tomorrow, come out of it, learn what we can, improve in the days in between, and be better in game two, regardless, like I said, of outcome.
I know it's Pelicans versus Thunder, but last year you and Willie both spoke highly of each other, and you talked about how you were his host when he was here. I'm just have thought about the full circle moment that you're coaching your first playoff series against him.
I have great respect for Willie and their staff and what they do. I think he's a very principled coach. They're very organized on both ends of the floor. There's not much that's going to catch them off guard. They play with great discipline. They play hard. They play together. They execute. He does a really, really nice job, as most of the NBA coaches do. So I have great respect for him as well as their team.
Then you mentioned how the 0-0 mindset started in the playoffs. Do you feel like you have to emphasize that a little bit more with this team?
All of our emphasis, is continuous throughout the course of the season. And like I said to you guys before, if we're coming up with new material right now, then, we haven't done a good enough job in the regular season of establishing a strong foundation. And so, again, it's just us in New Orleans now. This is what it's going to come down to. It's a series between two teams, but we have to be who we are, and they have to be who they are. And there'll be adjustments along the way, but 90% of the preparation is in your identity and who you establish yourself as in the regular season, and we've got to double down on that.
How much of it is that 0-0? Like, how much of that is your identity? Like not putting a number on it, but just.
Yeah, we need to be a team that is present in the competition. Every single time we get an opportunity to compete. Part of that right now is understanding that the regular season's over. The games have helped us forge an identity, and they've helped us given us idea of how we play against New Orleans and how New Orleans plays against us. But now, it's a new season and it's a new series, and the better team will win.
There's been a lot of talk about sort of the first time for the playoffs for this team, for so many of these guys. Shea's been so consistent, though. I think that's one of the things about him that stood out. Is he one of those guys that, I don't know if worry is the right word, but just the way he plays, does he seem like a guy who is uniquely qualified for playoff basketball?
Yeah, I think, again, we've tried to sharpen that blade. Our players have tried to sharpen that blade. Playoff basketball is, I think it feels a lot different, but it's not a different game. It's the same game. And the things that teams are good at in the regular season, the habits they build, they show up in the playoffs. It just is heightened because the stakes are a little bit higher. The crowds are a little more live. The noise around it is a little bit louder, and so it feels different, but it's the same game, And so, again, we just have to understand that and go out there and be who we are.
Is Shea, do you sort of feel like his consistency is one of his superpowers, if you will?
Yeah, we benefit from that greatly in a lot of different ways, from the production that he has on the court to the way that he approaches every single day and how contagious that is with our team, not only, now in this season, but as we've built, to this point.
How can game one being at home help?
Home games are always great, playing in front of your crowd, but you got to go out there and compete and try to earn the win regardless of where you are. Our fans have been great all season. I'm expecting our fans to be excellent as we go into game one, but we got to go earn a win if we want to get one.
Mark, you just mentioned Shea's consistency. In the sample of games you have where teams especially try to throw him off of what he does, like, what do you make of what that might look like, what that version of Shea might look like in the postseason, and what the surrounding members of the team might look like in those scenarios?
Yeah, there's nothing that a team's going to throw at him that he hasn't seen. There's nothing a team's going to throw at us that we haven't seen. There's not an infinite number of ways to play basketball, schematically. And so we've seen a lot of different looks over the course of the season. He's seen a lot of different looks over the course of time. New Orleans has been pretty consistent with the looks they've given him. I mean, Jones, Alvarado, those guys are really aggressive with him up the floor. They try to deny him the ball. They ball pressure. They've done that very consistently with him. That's what we're expecting to see from them again. And like I said, it doesn't make it easy, but I think there is a level of comfort that we've formed with all the different attacks that we're going to need, including that one.
Mark, what is the best version of this Thunder team? When you all are at your best, what does that look like?
We're competing together. We're competitive, and we're doing it as a five-man group on both ends of the floor. And that's who we've been for much of the season. We're not perpetually perfect with that, but we've established a very consistent tenor with that, and we need to continue to double down on that as we go into this.
And on the flip side, do you have any concerns or questions as your young team gears up for what they're about to experience?
I mean, the biggest concern is always the opponent right in front of you. I mean, we have a lot of respect for New Orleans. We have a lot of respect for their talent level, the way they play. They have potent jump shooters. They play together on defense. They make you earn things. They're disciplined. They don't beat themselves. And so we're going to be really concerned with every opponent that we face over the course of a season, and we're going into a series against a really good competitive team. That's the challenge that's right in front of us, and that's the hurdle we have to overcome in order to win a series.
Mark, can you talk about the relationship the team has with the community at Oklahoma City? It seems as though you both lift each other up in a very big way. In particular, Mayor Holt is a huge fan of the team, and it seems indicative of just that mutual support and love the community has for the team and vice versa.
Yeah, it's been pretty special for as long as the team's been here. I think not having another professional sports team, it being a smaller town relative to NBA cities, I think it's the second or third smallest market in the league. It has a very communal feel to it as a result of that. The fans have always done a great job of wrapping their arms around the team. There's a high level of support. There's not like a cynicism to the fan base at all. The fans are really wholesome and want the team to do well. They get behind the guys. The guys feel that. They try to reciprocate with their effort and with their togetherness. And that's a huge, factor for us. We had a great home court during the course of the regular season, and are expecting the same from our fans in the playoffs here.
Mark, with this Pelicans team, I know this league is it's become a game of runs. With the Pelicans team, I think of two games. The first game here, they kind of ate that lead. You guys had that big lead. You guys had it in the last game in New Orleans. They kind of came back from that big lead. What is it about that team that they can kind of eat leads like that?
Well, it's just the modern NBA. I don't know that it's individual to us or them. I mean, we've obviously come back from deficits this season as well. I think, the average swings in a game is 24, 25, 26 points. If you look at, what one team leads by and what the other team leads by and combine those numbers, the average is 24 to 26 in the regular season. The average is 24 to 26 in the playoffs. So there's really no difference in terms of runs between regular season and playoffs. And we have to be a 48-minute team that can weather the flurries that we have and the flurries that our opponents have, and we just got to be able to play consistently to who we are, possession by possession, regardless of what's happening to the scoreboard.
With that, I imagine now records will maybe continue to be broken in terms of the biggest lead come back from, stuff like that, as maybe this postseason goes, as further postseasons go. Like what fortitude is required there to maybe hold that off as this game continues to evolve in that direction?
I mean, I just think it's a 48-minute game. There's 102 possessions for the offense, 102 possessions for the defense. There's a lot of three-point shots going up, which lead to larger swings. This is not a new trend. Every year that this team's been together, the context of the league has been like that. And we just have to be a tough-minded team that can endure our opponents' runs and also have the discipline to stay present and to stay disciplined during our runs. And we've like I said, tried to build that muscle all year. We got to continue to do that in the postseason.
In a 7-game series in the playoffs, you have a chance to really just sort of counter-strategize against other teams. Is there any challenge to balancing that between attacking a team's weakness but also staying true to your identity and not bending too far?
Yeah, I mean, the identity thing is the non-negotiable. You don't want to lose yourself in the process of trying to solve every single puzzle But part of who we are is being a very adaptive team. We've talked about that all year. We've not been a one-trick pony. We've tried to stay incredibly fluid and, like I said, adaptive, pliable to different game circumstances. The reason we do that is for the development of our players, so that they're not rigid professionals, and also because we know that in these types of situations you're going to be forced to adapt, and we don't want to be overly reactive, when that happens. And so we'll see how it goes. I don't know what the adjustments are going to be because we haven't played a game yet, but they're inevitable in a series, and we just got to be able to dance with the series and be the best team we can be.
A lot of people talk about youth in a negative way, but are there good things about it? Is there kind of a, well, maybe they don't know any better type of thing? Well, what are your thoughts about the positive things about this being a young team?
The age is just a number. There's a difference between youth and maturity. So if your maturity is, if you're 23 and mature, that's a good thing. If you're 33 and mature, that's a good thing. If you're 23 and immature, not going to help you. If you're 53 and immature, then you don't have much time left to figure it out.